Have you discovered Folsom, but you're wondering if you'd like a little bit more slow pace of life or a more rural feel? Or you're a little bit concerned about the high home prices in Folsom, so you want some more reasonably priced options. So you discovered Cameron Park, but now you're not sure if you're comfortable with the commute times to Sacramento from there. And you're stuck in the middle trying to decide, is Cameron Park or Folsom right for you? Well, in this video, I'm gonna help you answer that question. I've been getting nonstop requests for these town versus town comparison videos from people trying to decide where the right spot for their family is. So I'm doing a whole series of these, and this one, Folsom versus Cameron Park, is just the next installment in that series. So if you'd like to watch the others because you're still trying to find out which town is right for you, I'll leave a link at the end to the playlist with all of my town versus town comparison videos so you can check them out. When it comes to trying to nail down the right community for your family, especially if you're coming from out of town, it can be really challenging to sift through all the information and try to figure it out. And that's where I come in. If you've been watching a while, welcome back. And if you're new here, you're probably wondering, who's this guy and why should I listen to him? And that's a fair question. My name's Rich Curtis and I'm with eXp Realty. I've been selling homes here in El Dorado and Sacramento counties for nearly 20 years in markets ranging from the Great Recession to the COVID market insanity and everything in between. So when it comes to El Dorado County and Sacramento County real estate, I've got you covered. When it comes to picking a new community for your family, general qualifying questions will only get you so far. Things like, how far of a drive to the freeway do you want to be? How far of a drive do you want to be to a hospital or your kid's school or a grocery store? Do you want to be above or below snow line, around pine trees or oak trees? Netflix or movie theater, tequila or whiskey, window seat or aisle seat? You know, all the important stuff. But when it comes to choosing the place that's going to be the hub of your life moving forward, it requires a deeper dive, and this video is that deeper dive. I'm going to run you through 8 critical criteria to evaluate these two communities so you can decide for yourself which one's right for you, Folsom or Cameron Park. So let's get stuck right into it. Now, if you're at all familiar with Folsom and Cameron Park, it might seem a little weird to do a video comparing these two very different communities that are fairly far apart, but hear me out. Over the last 20 years of selling homes to people up here, I have had hundreds of people call me and ask me to help them evaluate these two communities and decide which one's right for their families. See, most of these people are coming from suburban environments, so Folsom feels safe, comfortable, a lot like home, and it frequently gets voted best place to raise a family in California, so it's kind of a no-brainer. But on the other hand, these people are moving. Just like yourself, you might be considering a move to a new place. That's why you're watching this video. And as such, you might be intrigued by a more rural lifestyle or something that's different from home and gives you a fresh start. Cameron Park is more rural, but still neighborhood based and still a reasonable commute location to Folsom and Sacramento. So it becomes a compelling option for people trying to decide if they want something that feels a little bit more like they're coming from or if they want to try something new. So by the end of this video, you should hopefully know which one's right for you. So let's start with, where are these two places? Well, Folsom is the end of the flats. It's the very eastern edge of the Central Valley, about 30 minutes from downtown Sacramento, right on the El Dorado County, Sacramento County line. Cameron Park is another 25 minutes east up Highway 50 on the western slope of the Sierras in the foothills. So Folsom is in the flats and Cameron Park is on the slopes of the Sierras. Folsom is in Sacramento County, Cameron Park is in El Dorado County. To give you a little more perspective, Folsom is about an hour and 45 minutes from South Lake Tahoe, and Cameron Park is about an hour and 25 from South Lake Tahoe. Folsom is about 20 to 25 minutes from downtown Sacramento, and Cameron Park is about 30 to 40 minutes from downtown Sacramento. So let's get right into the criteria for evaluating these two communities. And the first criteria is going to be the general vibe or the feel of the place. What's it like to live there? There's going to be more similarities here than you might think because these are both suburban style living. They're both going to be neighborhood based with streets and cul-de-sacs. Folsom is just going to have bigger homes on smaller lots and closer together, and Cameron Park is going to have more varied home sizes on larger lots a little farther apart. So to put that in perspective, most everything in Folsom is going to be less than a quarter of an acre lot, and some of them much less. In Cameron Park, almost the whole town is on a third of an acre. That's just the way they built it out. Its sister town that shares a border with it, Shingle Springs, which is the more rural version of Cameron Park, which we'll do a video on that later, it has homes on acreage, but most of Cameron Park proper is on about a third of an acre in neighborhoods. So they're going to feel very similar in that way. But they are going to be different in the sense that Cameron Park is on the slopes of the Sierras and it is surrounded by a much more rural community. So in Folsom, you're going to be surrounded by cities. You're very close to Sacramento, and you have access to everything the city has to offer. In Cameron Park, you're surrounded by rural areas like Placerville, Pollock Pines, and heading up the hill to Tahoe. So everything you're going to have access to around Cameron Park is going to be more rural and more wilderness based than it is in Folsom. Another way these two communities are going to differ in terms of the feel of the place is Cameron Park is just going to have a bit of a slower pace of life. And people always kind of give me a hard time about this. How do you know? And it's just a feeling of the place. Things are just more go, go, go in Folsom, and they're a little more laid back mountain town vibe in Cameron Park. So if you're the kind of person that likes to get up in the morning and jam and go to work and do your errands and exercise and just go, go, go all day long, and you've got that energy and that's how you like to live, Folsom's going to be more the place for you. And if you're the kind of person who's a little more laid back, wants to take a little bit more time, be slower about things, have a little more recreation and downtime, then Cameron Park is going to have a little bit more of that feel. And the final component to the feel of living in these two places is going to be the weather. Now, both of these places are in a hot environment. It gets hot here in the summer, but Cameron Park is going to run about 10 degrees cooler than Folsom because of its elevation. And that's significant in the summer here when we have triple digits for long periods of time. Folsom also doesn't have the benefit of the delta breezes that Sacramento has. So Sacramento in the evenings will be a little bit cooler than Folsom, and Cameron Park in the evenings will be a little bit cooler in Folsom. There will be summer nights where it cools off up in Cameron Park where it just doesn't cool off down in Folsom. So if you really, really hate the heat, then Cameron Park might be better for you. Criteria number 2 when evaluating these two communities is home prices. Let's face it, the biggest line item on most of our budgets is our mortgage. So deciding on which community often comes down to where can you afford to live. So let's look at the prices in these two communities, starting with Folsom. Folsom has a median home price of $750,000. The bottom of the market is going to be around $440,000, but do be advised, homes at that level are going to need a fair bit of work and updating. And the top of the market, the sky is kind of the limit here. It goes all the way up to multi-million-dollar custom luxury homes. Now, by comparison, Cameron Park is going to have a median home price of $679,000, quite a bit less. The bottom of the market in Cameron Park is going to be a little lower as well at $400,000. Anything below that is going to be in a condition you probably can't get a loan on it. And the same caveat applies here that anything around $400,000 in Cameron Park is going to need some work and some updating. Now, the two communities are going to be fairly similar in what you get for that price. So at the median home price in either community, you're going to get about a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,100 square foot home. In Folsom, it's likely to be in slightly better shape and need less updating. In Cameron Park, it might be a little more dated and need a little more work. In Folsom, it's going to be on a much smaller lot, under a quarter of an acre, and in some cases, in most cases, down around 0.1 of an acre. In Cameron Park, it's going to be about a third of an acre. The whole town is on about a third of an acre. So you're going to get a bigger lot in Cameron Park for your money than you will in Folsom. So when it comes down to home prices, if you're on a tighter budget, then Cameron Park is probably for you. Also, if you're looking for a bigger lot, a bigger backyard for your family, Cameron Park is probably going to appeal more than Folsom. Criteria number 3 to evaluate these two communities is lifestyle. Now, Folsom is going to be a more walkable and bikeable lifestyle than Cameron Park. It was built out with intentional subdivisions and a trail system in between. In fact, a massive trail system. They've got over 50 miles of Class 1 trails for walking, biking, and hiking between the communities. These trails connect the neighborhoods and they connect the local parks. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't want to have to get in the car to do everything, you want to hop on your bike from the house and ride over to see a friend, ride to a park with the kids, ride to the grocery store, or to work, then Folsom is going to be the place for you. By contrast, Cameron Park is going to be a less bikeable and walkable community. The homes are going to be on larger lots, and there are great parks and lakes and trails to go to, but all of them are going to require you to hop in the car and drive there. In general, this is going to be a more wilderness style of recreating in Cameron Park than in Folsom. You're going to be going out to lakes and walking trails that are a little more in the woods and a little less paved and developed. So the lifestyle in Cameron Park involves being in your car a lot more. And we'll talk about this a little later on in the job section, but there's not that much of a job market in Cameron Park. So in Folsom, you have a higher chance of living and working in the same community. If you're living in Cameron Park, it's likely that you're going to commute somewhere for work if you're not an entrepreneur. So if living and working in the same community is important to you, Folsom gets the win. But if you're an entrepreneur or you don't mind commuting, then Cameron Park might work better for your family. Hey, if by the end of this video you still aren't sure if Folsom's right for you, or Cameron Park, or Dorado County, or Sacramento County, feel free to reach out to me via the contact information on your screen or in the description down below. I've been selling homes here for nearly 20 years and I've helped hundreds of families just like yours decide where to land in Dorado and Sacramento counties, and I'm always happy to help. All right, now on with the criteria to decide whether Folsom or Cameron Park is right for your family. Now this leads us right into criteria number 4, which is recreation. Like I said, Folsom has that extensive trail system for recreation. They also have 48 developed parks for you to go to with the kids and 2 lakes. But in general, it is more of a suburban style developed recreation, less of a wilderness style recreation like you have up in Cameron Park. So if you're the kind of person that wants to just hop on the bike and go and be right at your recreational opportunities, or you're the kind of person that wants to go down to the lake and have access to concession stands, places to rent kayaks or canoes or paddle boards or that sort of thing, Folsom is going to be the place for you. It has Folsom Lake. Folsom Lake is great. It's got the power boating opportunities with the wakeboarding and water skiing and that sort of thing, and a pretty nice dirt trail system around it. Then there's a smaller lake, Lake Natoma, which has a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit, so you really don't get power boating there, and that's great for your paddle boarding, canoeing, small sailboats, and that sort of thing. So if you like those activities, Folsom is a great place for you. Now Cameron Park, by contrast, is going to have better access to everything the western slope of the Sierras has to offer, and that's going to be mountain biking, wilderness hiking, it's going to be whitewater rafting, whitewater kayaking. In the winter, it'll have quicker access to skiing and snowboarding. So it's more of a wilderness style recreation location, and it's going to be the kind of place where you have to be a little more self-reliant. Have your own skills and equipment to go out and do what you want to do. It's also going to require the car almost every time. You're going to be loading your gear in the car and driving to recreation. So when it comes to recreation, both communities are amazing. It's going to come down to what kind of recreation your family likes. If your Sunday looks like getting up, getting the kids ready, grabbing the stroller or the bike and the bike trailer and riding down to a park and meeting another family and playing at the park with the kids, hitting a restaurant for lunch, and then back to the house, that is very much a Folsom lifestyle. If your Sundays look like getting up, loading the mountain bike, driving out to the trails, charging on the mountain bike trails for the day, and then heading home, then Cameron Park is going to be the place for you. Criteria number 5 is cost of living. And of course, we've gone over the biggest line item in cost of living earlier with the cost of homes, with Cameron Park getting the win there at a much more reasonable median home price than Folsom. But the next biggest item on your monthly bills is your utilities. And when it comes to electricity, there's a big difference between these two communities. Cameron Park is going to be on PG&E, which is relatively expensive power for the state of California and very expensive power when compared to what Folsom has access to. Folsom is going to be on SMUD, Sacramento Municipal Utilities District, and the cost of the electricity is nearly half in Folsom on SMUD than in Cameron Park on PG&E. That's a significant difference in a place where it gets really hot in the summer, so you're going to be running the air conditioning. Now, of course, Cameron Park is going to be a little bit cooler, and it cools off at night where it doesn't so much in Folsom, so you'll probably run your air conditioning a little less in Cameron Park, but that's not going to make up for the discrepancy in the cost here. It's going to be more expensive to cool your home and have electricity in Cameron Park than in Folsom. Now, when it comes to gas for heating and cooking, Folsom is going to be on natural gas, provided by PG&E, so it's still kind of expensive natural gas. Cameron Park is going to be on propane, which is going to be far more expensive there again. And when it comes to fuel prices, of course, for the vehicles, they're going to be relatively the same. But with gas, as of the recording of this video, bouncing between $4.50 and $5.50 a gallon around here, when you live in Cameron Park, it's much more far-flung of a community. It's a place where you're going to have to drive all the time. It's a place where you might be commuting for work. So most likely, if you live in Cameron Park, your monthly fuel prices are going to be higher. So when you're evaluating these two communities, you can see the home prices are going to be cheaper in Cameron Park, but my electric bills, my gas bills, and my fuel bills are all going to be higher in Cameron Park. So you really have to evaluate the full cost of living in the two communities to see which one is going to be best for your family. Now, to help you with that, I have deep dive videos on the cost of living for each of these communities on my channel. So just go to the playlist section, click the cost of living playlist, and scroll down to Folsom or Cameron Park, and you can watch both those videos, and that'll do a deeper dive into cost of living with the full numbers so you can really compare the two. Criteria number 6 when evaluating these two communities is going to be fire insurance. Now, if you live in California, you know, fire insurance is a big deal. Over the last 2 decades, we've had a ton of fires in the state, and it's really driven up the cost of fire insurance for everybody, but some communities are harder hit than others. Cameron Park is a more rural place and a more treed community, and as such, the fire insurance, the hazard insurance for your home, is going to be higher in Cameron Park than it is in Folsom. Folsom's down in the flats, and it's out of the tree zone, and it's out of the high fire severity zones. So in Cameron Park in general, I'm going to tell my clients to estimate a minimum of $3,000 to $6,000 for their annual premiums for their hazard insurance. Now, it can go much higher than that if you've got a bigger home, if you've got a more expensive home, or if you're in a higher fire severity part of Cameron Park. You can easily get up to $10,000 to $12,000. And on some multi-million-dollar huge homes, I've seen it get as high as $19,000. So it's a big deal. Now, when it comes to Folsom, you're going to be in a much more reasonable or normal expected rate for your annual insurance premiums, somewhere in the $1,500, maybe as low as $1,300, up to $3,000, depending on the size and cost of the home. So when it comes down to fire insurance, Folsom is going to be far, far cheaper. So you can see, again, although the homes are cheaper in Cameron Park, you then have to add up the additional cost of electricity and fuel and propane and the additional cost of your monthlies for your hazard insurance, and really evaluate how much cheaper is Cameron Park going to be for your family than it is in Folsom. Hey, if you've made it this far and you're getting anything at all out of this video, hit the like button, click subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss another video with critical information to help you with your move to El Dorado or Sacramento counties, including the many upcoming community versus community comparison videos I've got coming out over the next few weeks. Criteria number 7 is schools, and this is a big one. I've got 2 little kids, so if I was considering moving, schools would be high on my list of things to research. Now, I don't want to bury the lead here. You're going to be fine whichever community you choose when it comes down to schools. There's going to be more schools in Folsom because there's more people, less schools in Cameron Park because there's less people. But if you do your research on greatschools.org, you'll find that most of the schools in both communities score an 8 out of 10 or higher on greatschools.org, with the high schools, Ponderosa High up in Cameron Park scoring a 9 out of 10, and Folsom High in Folsom scoring a 9 out of 10, and the other high school in Folsom, Vista del Lago, scoring a 10 out of 10 on greatschools.org. So you can see not much difference there. The schools are going to be great in either community that you choose. There are a couple of nuances, though, that might be specific to your families. One of them comes down to new schools. There's very little chance of many new schools happening up in Cameron Park. However, with Folsom, there is the Folsom Ranch development south of 50, which has got 11,000 new homes coming online over the next 25 years, and they have planned 1 new high school, 1 new junior high, and 5 new elementary schools. We don't have dates for when those are going to be built yet, and you would have to buy into the Folsom Ranch development to have access to those. But if eventual access to brand new school facilities is something that's an issue for you or your family, then Folsom would be the place to choose for you. Now, up in Cameron Park, you're going to have greater access to homeschool. So if you're a homeschool family, there's going to be more homeschool, hybrid school programs, and more homeschool pods to network with for socialization in Cameron Park than there will be in Folsom. And there's going to be a little bit more Montessori presence and school of choice in Cameron Park than there will be in Folsom. So if homeschool or schools of choice are an issue for your family, then Cameron Park might get the win there for you. Criteria number 8, and the final criteria on our list, is employment. Now here, far and away, Folsom gets the win. There is really not much employment in Cameron Park. A little bit of retail and a little bit of education, and that's about it. Cameron Park really is a bedroom community. It's a place where you live and play, but most likely don't work. Most of the people in Cameron Park commute, and it is an ideal bedroom community location to commute to Folsom or the Sacramento area for work, but there's not going to be much work there for you. Now, by contrast, Folsom itself has a huge healthcare infrastructure. I should say Cameron Park does have a few off-site surgery centers, so there is a little bit of healthcare work in Cameron Park as well, but Folsom has hospitals, lots of off-site surgery centers, and lots of healthcare jobs. It's also really close to Roseville and Sacramento, which both have huge healthcare infrastructure, so you have quicker access to commute to healthcare jobs. Folsom's also going to have more education jobs because they just have more schools and more access to other communities right around them that have a lot more schools. Folsom also has tech jobs, with Intel being right there, and there's a little bit of tech in El Dorado Hills, which is kind of between the two communities, so both of them can kind of access that. And then, of course, Folsom is so much closer to Sacramento, where you can access all of the state level jobs down there. So if you need wider access to a wider diversity of jobs that are made for you, Folsom far and away is going to be the place for you. If you don't mind commuting to work, or you're an entrepreneur, you work from home, then Cameron Park would be a great place. All right, that wraps up our discussion of Cameron Park versus Folsom, and I hope this has helped you decide which community is going to be best for your family. Now, if you need a little more information to make that decision, or you've decided on one and want to do a little deeper dive into that one, you can click this video right here for the pros and cons of Cameron Park, and you can click this video right here for the pros and cons of Folsom. If you'd like to compare other communities, you can click this playlist down here for my comparison videos of other towns in the area. And if you want more pros and cons videos like the ones up here, you can find a pros and cons playlist on my channel as well, with the pros and cons of many of our local towns. As always, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you watching and making it to the end with me, and I'll see you on the next one.